Good morning. Welcome to Mayor's Weekly. As always, we're pleased to be with you and hopefully bring meaningful information to you. That's the whole basis for having the Mayor's Weekly, to bring meaningful information and dispel any rumors that might circulate in our community relating to the city. Joining me this morning, Kathy Chambless. Certainly Kathy needs no introduction. But this morning we want to talk about park and rec. There's a specific counterforce out there that says that our park and rec effort is kind of in shambles, and we're just missing millions of dollars in revenue. And I think we can lay out information that would counter that in total. And Kathy, as we get started, and you have a long tenure with this city, but park and rec, as I see it, is for the age spectrum, from the little fellas to the senior citizens. It's it's not an age specific effort, is it?
No, sir. No, sir.
And you look at what we do and the diversity of opportunities that we offer through park and rec in this city, and the underlying funding, and I go back to your long tenure here, and certainly, and we talk about this, you wouldn't endorse anything that I say if you thought to the contrary. You know I'd never want something like that. But Kathy, just your general take when we look at this age spectrum, the quality of the programs and our equipment and the facilities, how would you characterize that? Probably as good as it's ever been, not as good as it's ever been, that sort of thing. Your general thoughts on that, because you know there's not a dime spent in this city that doesn't work its way across your desk.
Well, and I would have to say that I think it's as good as I've ever seen in the 38 years I've been with
38 years.
38 years. And, you know, and I say that because we have added, just recently, we have added Gamble Park, Northside Park, playground equipment at $190,000 each.
And Kathy, let's talk about that. And both of us visited those areas prior to this work, and what we observed and what we heard from the community is equipment that was completely worn out, and some of them presenting a hazard to our young folks.
Absolutely, and you know, then Apex Park, the city spent $500,000 at Apex in just this past year. So, and that is a very, very nice facility. But it's not just that. Gamble Park is beautiful. There's just so much, the walking trails that have been added. And Mayor, then we're adding the 9 pickleball courts that will hopefully be available.
And Kathy, let me stop you right there. Kathy plays pickleball, and she keeps an eye on that project as the chief financial officer of this city, and driven by her interest in pickleball. And if you haven't been by to see that, you ought to go take a look. It is really going to be a beautiful, functional facility.
Yes, sir, and that's a big investment that the council made in the courts, about $600,000. And then we're adding playground equipment over at the Frisco Park. We'll spend about $150 there. That equipment has been delivered, and some of it's installed, and they're still working on the installation and beautification in that area. But Mayor, you know too, we're doing pickleball and tennis courts. We're redoing those at the Frisco gym area, so those courts will be available, as well as a basketball.
Let me excuse me, I keep interrupting you,
No
but
problem.
just a couple of days ago, I was connected with the president of our community college, Dr. Joel Haygood, in a presentation he makes quarterly on the college. And he talked about a number of things. But we made a significant investment in the rehab upgrading of the tennis courts contiguous to the Bevel State campus that has facilitated practice facilities, meets, I guess it's a tennis meet, a match, I guess, at that facility. And he was so complimentary of having something of that quality, and you'd have a hard time convincing me that's not a part of our park and rec effort, because those young people that come here to our community college, they're a part of our community.
Well, for sure, and those courts are used. I play pickleball on those on the weekend as well, but they're being used for tennis play as well as pickleball. A lot of activity, Mayor. And then, the natatorium, that facility, we spent $1 million replacing the big dehumidifier not so terribly long ago.
And the necessity of that, you say $1 million, we have heated pools inside. When you have heated pools, you have condensation that forms, and if that goes unchecked, it'll take the structure of your building down, metal structure. It's caustic, it'll rust, that sort of thing. You have to have it, or your facility will fall in a state of ruin, will it not? $1 million that we had to spend there.
Yes, sir. And then, we just recently started the roofing repairs on Swan. I think that one's finished. And the natatorium as well, though we're coming back and also doing more roof repairs at the natatorium. And we've still got some repairs to do at the natatorium. But all those things, in fiscal year 2023, we spent over $1 million just that 1 year alone trying to making improvements at our parks.
Yeah. And Kathy, of course, over 2 or 3 year period that we worked on, we probably spent a couple of million or more.
Well, for sure.
And how much debt did you have to take on to do those, Kathy?
We haven't taken on any debt. The Jasper City Council provided from the general fund, from the reserves of general
Wasn't
fund.
any magic spewing up out of the ground money, that we got it the old-fashioned way, didn't we?
Absolutely. And so they've done that the past several years, which it made it where those improvements and repairs can be made at the park.
Yeah, let me put that in perspective. To be able to pay for all that with no debt, and municipalities across this country are challenged with funding and liquidity and that sort of thing. I just read last few days a small municipality that had to take on debt for a $40,000 expenditure. This city, with its operations and expansion, has taken on no debt.
No, sir.
And that I'm quite proud of that, and I know you are, Kathy. And the people
great.
ought to be proud of that, and we don't have to go, because when you borrow money, and I'm qualified to say this, you discount your payday. That's just a straight up of it, and we're not discounting any of the money at this city. Now, Kathy, let's talk about those expenditures and maybe what this counterforce is leading to, in a statement that we're missing millions of dollars. Now, what a misnomer that is. That would create the perception in one's mind that just lots of money just fall over in your coffers if you do certain things. Well, I know, and anybody of sound mind and any business savvy about it, there's an expense side to generating that, and then there is a credit risk side of that, and we're going to touch, because you take on massive amounts of debt to do those things.
Well, I think the municipalities that are opening up their parks really for outside play, and it's not just for for their residents. They're making money off their parks, did take on massive amounts of debt in order to be able to do, to offer that type of activity.
Well, let me tell you what I saw in my long working life. It was a time, and you can really get in trouble chasing things that can prove to have been trendy things. There was a time when it was believed that you needed a golf course on every corner, and banks were chasing that and making loans. I was reading the other day where one had failed. Banks have lost a tremendous amount of money because the glitz dropped off of that. And we talked as recent as 2 days ago, Kathy, about a municipality and not too far from here looking at a project would involve massive amounts of debt. Now, if you take on that debt and what you have funded proves to be trendy and the demand goes away, you borrowed this money. It's a general obligation of the city. You have to pay that debt back. So what do you do to pay that back? You diminish services in another area to put that money there, or you raise taxes.
I mean, that's about it. The only way you can do it.
Tax the people. Tax the people. People are taxing us. And and Kathy, we've read about bad decisions that some municipalities made. We know one here in the state that appears they didn't do their research on a particular site, spent all the money they had, and the site didn't prove suitable. And so, and that brings me to this point, Kathy, and maybe what this counterforce is alluding to is why have we not built the park that we talked about in the 4-point plan? Kathy, as you know, our plan when we laid that out was to build on property the city owned. The architect made a determination that it was not usable, but guess what? We didn't buy the land, we already owned it. That didn't cost us a penny.
That's true.
Right?
That
Didn't
is
cost us a
exactly
penny.
right.
We went to a second site that looked to be very favorable topographically. It looked like it would work. Probably some flood hazard areas there that could have made it a little challenging, but you had to access a state highway. Accessing a state highway is controlled by the Alabama Department of Transportation, not the city of Jasper. Our engineering firm first passed at what we would have to do to satisfy the Alabama Department of Transportation in accessing that state highway. The cost would far exceed what you'd pay for the land. That makes it not work. So we're back at the drawing board, and we have some other things to look at. We're working, but we talk about money a lot. Kathy, in that 4-point plan, we laid out some money. And if you would talk about that, and have we squandered that money, wasted that money, what have we done with that?
Okay, so we've still got about $18 million that is invested at Regions Bank as well as some local banks here in Jasper, and we're earning about 2% interest on that
And
money.
that lines up with what we're paying, don't it?
It does. And so then we have spent about $2.4 million on paving, and then on the city hall we've spent about $4.4 million. So that's exactly where we're at right now. We've got the money invested, like I say, about $18 million of that is at our local banks and region, and we've spent about $6.7 million.
Yeah. Now, Kathy, somebody might jump on, you're only earning 2%? Well, let me tell you why we're only earning 2%. You can research this, and I know what you'll find. A term called arbitrage. We borrow tax exempt as a municipality. You can't borrow tax exempt and take that money and make an investment yield off of it. The most that you can do is a 1-to-1. That is, if we're paying 2%, we can earn 2%. Can't earn 2.5%. Clearly, we could make a lot more than 2%, but we were bound by the rules of arbitrage, and that's okay. So Kathy, if we're losing any ground at all, it might be to inflation, but the money is safe. It hadn't been diverted over here to another project. It's
No, sir.
and anybody that want to question that, they could come see you. We have audited financial statements, and you can see precisely the amount of money that came to our coffers, what's been spent and what remains, and would add that those investments are an acceptable investment for municipalities, risk-free.
It is. Mm-hmm.
So that's it. So what I would say to you is if you have questions about Park and Rec, if you think we're missing the mark, we'd like to hear from you. We're always open to learn things, but I think if you take stock of where we're at, how things have been managed, not putting the people at any risk level at all, I think we stack up very well, and you don't have to take our word from it. We hear it from our accounting firm, auditing firm, the way this city is managed, and you hear it, Kathy,
Yes, I
and you
do.
work closely with them, and those folks are qualified to do audits and render opinions and that sort of thing. So what they have to say carries a lot of weight. We're glad to have you with us, and again, if you have questions about things in Park and Rec, let us hear from you. Kathy, thank you for joining me this morning.
Yes, sir.